Hello, welcome to my channel again, Christopher Taylor, Sovereign Harmony. So this is a special edition video. I wasn't planning on doing this one, but when I was looking at Jupiter entering Libra, which happened on the 9th, today is, Monday, September 12th. So on the 9th, just a few days ago, Jupiter entered Libra. And so it's going to be in Libra until October 10th, 2017, so about 13 months. And so I mentioned this in my last video that it was part of the big energies happening, shifting here in the fall. But when I was looking at Jupiter in Libra and it's kind of trek through the sign where it's retrograding as far as what degrees of Libra that it's retrograding, I noticed a relationship with Venus that I thought really stood out to me. And so I wanted to address that today specifically. This Venus, Venus is the ruler of Libra. And so Jupiter in Libra, it's really this expansion of relating, expansion of relationships. So that's, business, personal, whatever. And then we have Venus, which is going to go retrograde. It does that once every 18 months. The last time was the summer of 2015. So we're coming up on the next one here in the spring of 2017. And so it all sounds far away and whatnot. And so that's why I just want to introduce it here now, because this week, really from about September 9th to the 17th, again today's the 12th, so we're right in the middle of this little 8-9 day window. The planet Venus is moving through the degrees of Libra, where Jupiter will have its retrograde in 2017. And I find this very significant, for one, because after Venus goes retrograde and it goes direct again in the spring of next year, it's going to oppose Jupiter just as Jupiter finishes up its retrograde in Libra. And so there's this real sense that what is starting now is going to culminate in late spring, okay? And so that's why I wanted to introduce it now, because this is when, really this week is extremely potent. And it's the week when things that are going to culminate with this Venus-Jupiter, which is, to me, this culmination of relationships is birth and growth and, moving into new directions with relationships and whatnot. That could happen very fast, very big ways, those kind of things. So business partnerships could suddenly become very lucrative, for example. Partnerships could turn romantic, or the romance could turn up a notch, whatever it is. But there's a sense of amplification once we get into next spring, but it's starting now. And so it's interesting that it is starting this week, because this week is so potent. Today being, again, Monday the 12th, this Friday on the 16th, we have a lunar eclipse in Pisces that I mentioned in my previous video. And this lunar eclipse is going to be squaring Mars. It's conjunct Chiron. And like I said before, the energy of this eclipse has a lot to do with kind of releasing our fears and just going for it, even if it hurts. And it will. That's what I mentioned before, is this idea that we're allowing our wounds to be exposed, we're allowing ourselves to be vulnerable so we can be healed and move forward with that integrated as part of us, okay? So this is an important week. So it's just interesting, when we're talking about vulnerability, opening up, things you need to do in relationship, whether it's business, personal, whatever, and the fact that what is stirring right now is the beginnings, the very beginnings of what could next spring really culminate into something really big, okay? And so just to walk you through the timeline, I'll put it down here below the video as well. So it's just something to be aware of. Just understand that conversations this week, ideas this week, this is a bigger week than it may appear on the surface. We'll know when the ripple effects come down the line, okay? And so I think it's a pretty big deal. It feels like a big deal. That's why I wanted to do this video. I plan on doing one in October for what's coming up with the election and whatnot, but I felt like I should address what's happening with Jupiter in Libra and how it's related to Venus, okay? And so this week, like I said, Venus, while we have the eclipse and everything else going on, Venus is in the zone of Libra between 13 and 23 degrees, where Jupiter will have its retrograde from late winter into the spring next year. And so again, this is like the introduction phase. Whatever is coming in now related to this eclipse, where we're opening ourselves up, being vulnerable, taking action despite the potential for pain and opening our wounds, etc. And so there is this kind of a planting ground happening now. And this goes back even to late August 27th, Venus and Libra were conjunct. They were together in Virgo. Okay, then they both moved into Libra shortly after. And so that was kind of the beginning of this phase, if you really want to think of it that way. So that last week of August was really the beginning of this new birth. And this week, it kind of stirs things in motion. And then there'll be a little bit of a break. And when we get to about early to mid-November, this is when Jupiter starts to enter that zone where it's going to be retrograde in the spring. So it'll enter 13 degrees Libra. And so the period from about mid-November right on through early February, the first week of February, Jupiter is going to be expanding what is introduced this week, or over this 9-day period from the 9th to the 17th. So we're in the introduction phase. It'll be expanded November, December, January into early February. And what's interesting is because Jupiter will go retrograde shortly thereafter in early February, okay? And it'll last until, I believe, early June, that's what it is. It'll be early June when it finally goes direct. So that period from early February to early June is going to be the Jupiter retrograde over this same zone that Venus is in this week, okay? And what's also interesting is that just before Jupiter goes retrograde in early February, about a week before, Venus will be on the other side of the zodiac. So it's pretty close to Jupiter right now, but it's moving a lot faster than Jupiter. It'll be, by the time we get to late January, early February, it will be in the opposite sign of Libra, which is Aries, okay? And so Venus is going to have its retrograde March, April timeframe, and it's going to cover the last few degrees of Pisces and like the first half or so of Aries. And so Venus is going to enter that zone for its retrograde late January, so just before Jupiter starts to go retrograde, okay? And so there's a sense that late January, early February is another peak period. This is also just before the next set of eclipses. So it makes sense that there's a peak period of shifting and changing with regards to relationships, again, that are probably starting now. They're growing throughout the winter. And then there's something happens right around late January, early February, where there's some shifting going on. There's some sense of shifting sands. Well, maybe there's new layers being added to relationships. Maybe there's thoughts of that, or expansions. Maybe there's a business relationship where there's only a certain focus and it expands to more focus points or something like that. Okay, so that's what we're looking at there. And then as we move to the spring, so then about a month after Jupiter goes retrograde in early February, Venus will actually go retrograde. So it enters its shadow phase for the retrograde in late January, actually moves retrograde through that zone starting in March. So early March to mid-April, Venus is moving backwards. And in mid-April, it goes direct, okay? And then all the while, Jupiter is still retrograde, right? And so Venus is then going to start moving forward. It'll exit Pisces, re-enter Aries, and it's going to reach a point where it's opposing Jupiter in Libra, okay? And that'll be in mid-May. And so a month after Venus goes direct, which is mid-April, it will reach a point where it's opposing Jupiter, and Jupiter is going to be at a standstill because it's going to be finishing its retrograde that started in early February. So early February to early June, it's retrograde. So we're in early June of next year, 2017, and now Jupiter's sitting there waiting at about 13 degrees Libra, and here comes Venus finishing up its shadow at 13 degrees Aries. And so they're exactly opposite each other. So there's some sense of total culmination coming into being. It's a very pleasantly explosive energy. It's not explosive in the destructive sense. It's this sort of massive, think of like a blooming flower, just exploding very fast into bloom. That's the energy that we see for mid-May. And then over the next few weeks, Jupiter will then go direct. And it will cover the same zone that Venus is covering this week, remember the intro phase, from early June right on through early to mid-September. And so that is going to be the icing on the cake phase. So I think next summer, we're really going to see the final capstone expansions of what we're starting now. And so the late winter and spring is going to be some adjustment phase of wondering what direction we're taking different partnerships and whatnot. And once we get to about May, we're going to have all our answers. And then the summer is just like this rapid movement upward in that department. So it's really exciting. I think that when it comes to relationships, no man is an island, that old saying, and this is one of those times and we're ready for it. Like I've talked in my other videos, we're a little more sovereign emotionally, sovereign in terms of where our boundaries begin and end, and we're ready to begin collaborating and cooperating in a way that we're not losing ourselves in the process. It's that sense of sovereign harmony. And so, again, right now it's starting with both Jupiter and Venus in Libra. It's really starting to build right now. And I think, like I said, once November hits, November to about late January, early February, there's going to be a sense of gradual growth of what is being born here. Spring is about adjustment until the final culmination in May. And that period really from mid-May right on through early to mid-September is real sense of, wow, where did this come from? This is great. Feeling totally supported in relationship. So if we've had injuries in the past, wounds, scars, and that's really what this week is about. Again, with this lunar eclipse that's coming in, it's this ripping open or ripping off that band-aid so that we're exposing our wounds, being vulnerable, because we need to do that if we want to get to that place that we can see now in spring, summer 2017, which is a place that we can only exist in if we first do this process of ripping open the wounds and exposing ourselves in a certain way, and being vulnerable. And that is going to open up this pathway for growth. So I guess the real advice for this week then is just be cognizant of what we're cooking up, essentially, especially what it has to do with other people, and also be ready to be vulnerable, and don't be scared of it, because it really is part of this process. If you really want to have a nice working business partnership or marriage partnership or whatever, then this phase right now is extremely important to go through this sort of just by knowing that it is it's got to hurt first a little bit before it grows into what we want it to be. That can help us get through this week, because I think things are going to be revealed and unveiled in many ways this week, in ways that we can't deny, whatever that means. I don't know, but that's just the way it wanted to come out. But expect to feel resistant, and expect to feel, and the more resistant we are, the more pain we'll feel. And so really the advice is just to be open, know that we're all in a vulnerable state, and that we're doing it for a good reason. It's sort of if we didn't want to have that partnership experience that we're building toward, then we wouldn't have to do this, but we do if we want to. So this is our opportunity in a way. So anyway, just wanted to bring that up. So it is kind of looking out for the next year, really until next September. And so this is just a way to understand that we're in a general background period of growth in relationship, partnership, and that kind of thing, and balance, give and take, that kind of thing. So, and there's certain phases that we're going to go through here over the next several months, and just enjoy this ride, because it's pretty exciting. I think the end looks really bright, and it's not as scary as it sounds this week, but it's it's always a bit of a trip to reveal the truth of yourself that you've been hiding from yourself, right? And so that could be part of what happens this week. So anyway, any questions, let me know. And I will see you in October, probably in early October. I'll do a little update about what's been happening, what's going on. Hopefully this other eclipse in Virgo on earlier in the month was on September 1st, I believe it was good to you. It's starting things anew, and this lunar eclipse is really just going to be the release valve that will clear the space so that we can build from there. So it's almost like the demolition of the old building, so without killing the foundation, so that we can build something new on that foundation. Okay, so just think of it like that. We gotta gut the old place before we can build a new one. And so that means dealing with old pains from the past. So whether we were we were in a business partnership where we got basically shysted, or there was something, we were cheated out of something, or whatever it was, or in a personal relationship, any of our old pains, things we're saying, I'll never do that again, or if I'm going to be in a relationship, it's going to be this way and not that way, or whatever walls we've built up, that's all going to be exposed and have to be ripped away if we actually are going to have what we want in relationships. So anyway, we'll see you in October. Thanks for joining, and please share with anyone else that might be interested in this Jupiter-Venus relationship over the next year. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.